Yes, recording has started.
Thank you, Fred. Well, good afternoon, morning, evening, depending on your side of the world. My name is Nick Wind. I am a senior sales executive here at MoodleUS. Um, to get started, for those that may not be familiar, MoodleUS is a wholly owned Moodle entity. Basically, we provide a number of services to the Moodle community, such as hosting, support, development, and training. Um, we are very excited. We're fairly new. We were just come on board August 2021. So we're very excited for the mandate that Moodle's created for us, and connecting with our partners in the Moodle community like BigBlueButton is one of the great kind of resources that MoodleUS is up to these days. Um, in addition to that, I did just want to briefly touch on, I think we've got a lot of people out here that are also Moodle users, just to let you know that Moodle 4.0 is coming soon, scheduled for March 2022. If you're not sure if if your system will support Moodle 4.0, there's a convenient button inside of Moodle in your site administration menu. You'll just click on server, click on environment, and then you'll be able to see Moodle 4.0 in the drop-down list. It'll let you know if your system is ready for Moodle 4.0. We also have Moodle Workplace 4.0 and Moodle Mobile App 4.0 coming out soon. And we also encourage you to double check moodle.org/news for the latest details in upcoming webinars in addition to this one. I think we just had a gamification webinar last week or last month you might be interested in. And all of those recordings and things are available on Moodle News. Looks like we've had a few people that might have looked at Moodle 4.0 already. Feel free to check out qa.moodledemo.net. If you want to get your hands on Moodle 4.0 or try it out, you can go to that test site. We've got login and password information up there that you can log in as different types of user, student, teacher. Try it out, get familiar with the new user interface. With the release of 4.0, the train is moving down the tracks. We're moving towards Moodle 4.1 later this year. Just as a reminder, 4.1 is also going to function as a long-term supported release for Moodle, supported for 3 years. And we're going to also have a lot of continued improvements in Moodle activities in terms of user interface design. As always, if you're having issues or thinking you may need help with that Moodle 4.0 upgrade, please feel free to reach out to moodle.com/US, which will take you to the MoodleUS page, where we've got a number of resources and services to help you with your Moodle installation, as well as if we're looking to implement BigBlueButton later. So with that said, I also want to go ahead and introduce Fred. Fred serves as the project manager for BigBlueButton, and in his spare time, he also will moonlight for the CEO of Blindside Networks. I've known Fred for a number of years. I'm very excited to have him with us today to talk a lot about BigBlueButton, as I'm very excited and also want to congratulate BigBlueButton for being introduced as part of core for Moodle 4.0. I think this is a huge step forward for Moodle. It's going to make Moodle much easier to use as we introduce yet more open source technologies to work with Moodle to make it a more seamless and engaging learning management system. So with that said, I want to go ahead and hand it over to Fred. Before I do, I just want to remind everyone, we'd love to have you stay to the end, is if you're interested in purchasing a BigBlueButton subscription, we do have several promotions we're running this month from MoodleUS that will help lower the cost of that BigBlueButton service if you're interested. So do make sure you stay till the end, as after Fred's presentation, I'll be happy to share some of that information with you. Thank you, Fred. Would you like to go ahead and take over? Fred, you're on mute.
Oh, sounds great. Thanks a lot, Nick. And so welcome, everybody. I am very pleased to share with you the latest on BigBlueButton, and even more importantly, the work that we're doing with Moodle HQ and MoodleUS to provide basically the world's best virtual classroom, or as we like to say, building the world's classroom, Moodle plus BigBlueButton together. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit about the company, a little bit about the background of the Moodle integration, and a little bit about why we exist. I'll talk about the integration and the value that it provides to you as the teachers, and then do a little bit of demo, talk a little bit about how Moodle HQ can provide hosting, the sort of difference between free tier and premium tier, and then we'll open up for questions. As always, the chat is open. If you have questions, feel free to type it as you go along. And we enjoy interacting, or we will look forward to interacting with you. And as if this was a class, there'll be lots of chances for you to interact during the session. All right, so BigBlueButton was started by Blindside Networks in 2008. Actually originated at Carleton University in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And since then, life has not been idle. In the last 2 years, Blindside Networks, we've hosted over 2 billion minutes of virtual classes in BigBlueButton. That, of course, is related to the pandemic, the least of which really accelerated the development of BigBlueButton and the adoption of BigBlueButton around the world. And I have examples of this. So in terms of the history, the first BigBlueButton integration went public on July 11th, 2013. That's a stretch ago. I remember those days. And now if we fast forward today, you can see all the versions of Moodle we provide. And this is taken from Moodle.org. This is the public plugin that has been available for years. And that is the code that actually merged in with a lot of work and a lot of good effort from the developers into the core of Moodle. So quite a range. And in terms of that public plugin, which you can see on the Moodle.org website, there's quite a lot of use of it. So over 20,000 sites running it, over 10,000 downloads. And while my name is here, the real person behind this is Jesus Federico, who over the years has done the yeoman's work to make sure that the Moodle plugin for BigBlueButton is the absolute best plugin of all of our integrations, and making use of all the capabilities that Moodle can provide to an integration. It is not our first time to integrate code into Moodle core. So actually a few years ago in 2017, Jesus wrote a record RTC, basically a plugin, an add-on plugin to let you record audio and video inside the editor. And we published that, and that actually got merged into the Moodle core years ago. So we've already been down this road before. We have been at many Moodle conferences over the years. I think Jesus and I, probably 20 of them at least. And this is in Europe, Barcelona, Ireland, Australia, obviously Canada, United States, all over. So just love interacting with the Moodle community. In terms of large deployments and success for the BigBlueButton and Moodle integration, so this is a graph from a deployment in Baden-Württemberg, a state in Germany. During the height of the pandemic, they serviced 3,000 Moodle schools with their own pool of BigBlueButton servers, at which they supported at some points over 185,000 concurrent teachers and students. So the entire state of Baden-Württemberg ran on Moodle and BigBlueButton for months during the pandemic. And the systems are all still up. They are taken care of by the good people there, and they use that as a virtual classroom for the state. Another really cool announcement. So yesterday, the United States Air Force Air Force Education and Training Command announced the production availability of BigBlueButton integrated with My Learning, which is Moodle Workplace. We've worked with MoodleUS on this account for over a year, and it just, they made available announcement of it yesterday. So that's super cool. That is the vision of making sure that Moodle has the best virtual classroom built in. And it's now being used by the Air Force for training. So I'd like to just step back for a moment and ask the question, why does BigBlueButton exist? And it does because of this. There's only one of these. That's the only planet we have. And if we look at the sustainability goals around the world, and this is the UNESCO sustainability, 17 targets for our planet to be a really good place for all of us. Education is the fourth. And what UNESCO will say is that education underpins a lot of the other goals. So having access to high quality education is paramount for the next for this generation and next. So when you think about, and when we think about why BigBlueButton exists, why do we create BigBlueButton? I mean, there's the entrepreneurial opportunities for it, but there's a social benefit, which I think is a greater weight. And so when we think of BigBlueButton, we want it to empower the world's educators to teach online. And in that regard, our ethos is very close to Moodle. We're both open source. We both care about making our product available to anyone in the world. We both care about the teachers and the students and making sure they have the best experience. And so in that regard, BigBlueButton plus Moodle is really delivering the world's classroom anywhere in the world. So in terms of what sets BigBlueButton apart, we sort of think of it in terms of four things. We're focused on one market, online learning. We are not a genetic video conferencing system. We provide live analytics. So when we think about helping the teacher teach, analytics is a key part. We now do this live during the class. And I'll show examples of this. In terms of integration, we are now built into Moodle core. So when we say deeply integrated, it is literal. We are integrated as part of the Moodle core, code base. And we are both open source projects. We have over 150 developers that contribute to us on GitHub, localized in over 55 languages. So the proposition we make in terms of value to educators in schools. So we would say that we are not a video conferencing system. We just don't believe those systems are well suited for teaching and learning. They're heavily used, but they're not designed for it. You know, they just have no awareness of what the teacher is trying to do other than, can I just share content? Whereas from our perspective, we believe to better serve the teacher, you need to have a deep integration with the LMS. Should appear as part of it. You need to have features that are focused on engagement for learning. That's what for teaching and learning. And you need to provide the teacher with all the assistance in terms of like analytics, what's going on in the class, and we can provide that as well. And I have examples we'll show. And our value for the schools or the educational institution is because it's part of Moodle and so deeply integrated, it should reduce your training costs because it just appears as a natural extension. There's no extra sign-on you need. It just loads up in the browser without an installation or a download, and it just appears like it's part of Moodle because it is. So in terms of what it would look like, this is a screenshot. I'll show a demo in a few minutes. So this it looks like in Moodle. You'll see the join session. This is what it will see. And you can see the recordings that appear underneath. Really easy, part of the Moodle UI. And some control over the visibility of recordings as well. That's available to the teacher. We make use of pretty much everything that Moodle can provide a plugin in terms of all the capabilities, lock settings, role assignment, scheduling, common module, activity completion, it's all there. I won't try to go into the details of it, but if you, at the end of this, if you check it out with Moodle HQ, who can set you up with like a free tier, or go to, you probably have already used BigBlueButton, the free version that we provide available inside of the Moodle plugin. There is a depth of capabilities there for customization, in addition to things that are very specific to, or uniquely specific to BigBlueButton, like lock settings, mapping Moodle roles into BigBlueButton, and things like you can prevent users from entering a class until the teacher is present. We also have activity completion. So we extend Moodle's concept of when does it mark an activity as being completed with additional logic that depends on what happened during the online class. So you may have an activity that you would like to mark for completed the students when they have attended at least 90 minutes of an online class for this activity. And we have that data, and the BigBlueButton will send that data back into Moodle, and Moodle can use that for activity completion. So it is another example of how we want to make sure that whatever Moodle can do that we can exploit and add value to, we are building it. So in terms of that, the first one was deep integration. The second is engagement for learning. And in terms of engagement, there are lots of things that we do that are directly related for helping the teacher and engage the students for the purposes of learning. And when you think about that, from the theory of learning, and this is Bloom's taxonomy, and there's various ways to say it, but if you think about how a student's brain works, you know, do they remember something? Can they understand it? Can they apply the knowledge? Can they analyze what they did? Can they evaluate it? And can they actually create stuff at the end? And so we think about how can we help the teacher navigate the student through those various stages, both understanding which stage they're at, helping them go from stage to stage, and then what can our product do to help you bridge that gap? So when we think about our product, it's not in the terms of like can we show you, X number of webcams? There's value to that, but the real value is in communicating content in a way that your students will learn. So a couple of screenshots in terms of like what BigBlueButton do. You can raise your hands. You all have a raise hand button in the lower right-hand corner. If you click this, I will get a pop-up message that stays up, and it will tell me so-and-so or which person raised their hands. And if there's multiple people that raise their hand, I will see multiple messages. So I saw a few people raise their hand. I lowered it very quickly. It's okay. Hey, Bo, I saw you raise your hand. Okay, another cool thing in BigBlueButton is multi-user whiteboard. It is designed to help the teacher engage students for the purposes of maybe working on a problem or sketching something out. So I'm going to turn on multi-user whiteboard. If everybody moves their mouse around, just move out to where you're currently located in the world. You don't have to draw, but just move the mouse around to show people where on the map are you located. Okay. Oh, wow, there's someone in Australia. South Africa? Don't think South Africa. I see Brazil, Brendan, and so on. So I, as the instructor, can enable multi-user whiteboard. I can turn it off, and so I can clear as well. And I can actually pick individual students and just give them access to the whiteboard. So if you're in a class and you wanted to just interact with 2 students, you can do it. And then you could be able to just have some one-on-one time with them in terms of the whiteboard. And again, I can turn it off. Multi-user whiteboard designed for engaging with students. Polling is there. If you joined the session a little bit earlier, we did some polls. So it's very quick to start up a poll. There's a button that I have here in my interface, which lets me start a poll. I can put a question in if I want, or I can just do true, false. BigBlueButton has access to the slides when you upload it. We do this for screen readers. And we also make it possible where if the slide looks like it might be a poll type question, we'll give you an ABC button below. So I'm going to do this. I'll go next. I'm going to start a poll. Okay, so how would you position BigBlueButton? Is it a video conferencing system trying to masquerade as a virtual classroom? B, a proprietary product that cares about your privacy? C, a closed source commercial product that requires you to download software? Or D, an open source virtual classroom designed to help teachers teach and learners learn? Okay, we'll let people respond. All right. I think a few people are tongue in cheek. If you answered A, that is not the correct answer. We are not a video conferencing system trying to masquerade as a virtual classroom. Everybody in the market will say video conferencing, but we are a virtual classroom. And I think that reflects the needs of the teachers and students. So I think most people, yes, that is what we do. All right, we have shared notes as well. So the shared notes is actually on the left-hand side. You can actually go in and you can type key takeaways from the session. It's a collaborative area. It's like a built-in Google Docs, so that if you're doing an agendas or key takeaways from the session, agenda at the first, key takeaways at the end, you can use the shared notes. And the teacher has control over this as well. So I can actually lock the shared notes, and now no one will be able to write on them. So again, you think about what has been going on in the class. We give you the ability to lock things where you can prevent students from doing shared notes, sharing their webcam, whatever you want to do to have them focus on you and the content. Okay, we have breakout rooms. It's the go-to way for engaging students together. So you can have up to 24 breakout rooms. You set the time, and you can set it up where students can join the breakout rooms as well. The Learning Analytics Dashboard. So this is something that we did in the release we just released in December. This is a live dashboard, opens up another window, and I'll show it in a moment, that helps you answer 3 questions. You as a teacher: who's in my class? So how long they've been there, who's participating based on their interactivity, and who's learning based on responses to polls. So I'll show that in a moment. I want to take a moment. One of the things that BigBlueButton can do is share videos inside the class. So I'm going to share with you a recent video, a portion of it that we did to highlight what's new in BigBlueButton 2.4. So I can pause the video at any time as a teacher, and I can play it back as well. So I'm going to go into a particular section that talks about the learning dashboard. Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to presentation. All right, so one of the things I wanted to do is tell you like a little bit of the roadmap, because anytime folks come up to a webinar, I want to share with some information that we have coming out. So what can you look at in the future? Basically, what is our promise to constantly try to build the world's best virtual classroom? You're going to see even deeper integration with Moodle. So we're going to take advantage of the fact that we're in the core and look at sending more data, more analytics back to Moodle. And the goal would be unified reports for students. This isn't today, but this is in our roadmap. And Natalie, I'll show you activity completion in a moment, or Nelly, sorry, activity completion in a moment. So more ways to engage. So looking at bringing content back from the breakout rooms. So when you put students to breakout rooms, have them bring the content back, like the whiteboard activities they did. Okay. And then quizzing as well. So polling with the correct answer, essentially. And you're going to see some more improvements coming to the Learning Analytics dashboard in terms of like a timeline view. Okay, so let's do a demo. You're asking about screen sharing. I'm going to share my screen. So we're using the browser to share the screen. Does a really good job in terms of like the speed. So you can see here how it looks. I have a Moodle course. This is on a Moodle site, and I'm going to add a BigBlueButton activity. So let's say it is Thursday's class from 7 to 9. And that's it. That's all I actually need to do. I can save this and display it. And now I will join the session. Okay. So it'll launch into BigBlueButton. I didn't have to log in again. It already knows that I am the teacher. And it brings me in as a moderator. We had the default presentation loaded in the plugin settings, so this comes up, and the recording started automatically. At this point, I can engage just like we're doing. Students can show up. And some of the things that I was doing, like the whiteboard capabilities, I'm going to share my webcam here as well. When I was doing polling, this is what my interface looked like. I could just do true, false, start it. Now there's nobody in here, but I can publish the results. In terms of the Learning Analytics dashboard, I can go here and show it. So it comes up and it shows there's one person, just me, who's in the session, and it will show all the polls. But let's say I've done the class, I've sort of done the presentation, engaged with students, and I end it. I have a few minutes to see the learning dashboard at the end before the information clears. And if I go back, in a few moments, the recording will appear. Let me show you a little bit more about the settings. So I have the ability to set a welcome message that's going to appear inside of the course. I'm going to highlight some things. I can have it wait for moderators to come in. I have this set to be recorded by default. You have global settings, the plugin settings that you can set some of these as defaults. You can preset the lock settings. So if you wanted, for example, to disable private chat by default, it can be done. You can upload a default presentation. You can assign the roles. You can put it on the Moodle calendar. And this is where you can do the activity completion. So you can say, show this activity completed when the students must view the activity, they must join it, and show it complete when they've been in the class for 120 minutes and they have responded to polls. So if somebody is not there or has not responded to polls, this will not be marked as completed. So let's say if I go back and save and display it, and in moments, the recording is already visible. So this will show, this is like a premium to your account, which I'll talk about in a moment. There's a video file of the recording. So you can see it. There we are. And I also see the analytics from the session afterwards given to me as a recording format we call statistics. So I would see all the users who would hear. I don't have to write it down during the class. I can see how much they were engaged, and I can see the responses to all the polls as well. Cool. So that's an overview. And just in terms of like the learning analytics dashboard, if I show, this is what it looks like to me. So imagine I'm teaching a class of 54 students, and I'm trying to find out who raised their hand or what were the responses to polls. I don't have to remember that. You as a teacher don't have to remember it. It's all here for you. So if you're trying to see, based on an activity score, who was really engaged and who was maybe not engaged, that information is there. It's the same information that's available in the class. It's just captured for you and put in a way that's easy to digest. Okay. MJ, you raise your hand. Maybe let's leave the questions to the end if we can, because I might actually answer your question in a moment. Okay, so that's an overview of the company, the history of our project, the integration with Moodle, the 3 ways we differentiate: deep integration, engagement, and analytics, a demo, and now like how do you get started with BigBlueButton? In the poll, a lot of you said you've already used it. It's been built into Moodle for years. There's like a free version that's built into Moodle that Blindside Networks hosts. In terms of like when you work with MoodleUS or other Moodle partners, there is a free version that they have built in for their customers as well, in which it's possible to upgrade to a premium version as well. So in the free version that you can get, if you're a Moodle HQ customer, you can get it, it'll expire after 7 days, recommended for 5 concurrent sessions and 25 users. But in the premium version, this is the one that you can use. The key thing is the recordings are permanent and they're downloadable and they're video files, just like I showed a few minutes ago. So this is the case where you want to use this for teaching in your classes. You want the recordings to be available for students after the class is over. Recording statistics, invite external guests, personal rooms, which is external access, and reach out to MoodleUS afterwards if you're interested, and they can tell you about the pricing as well. And as Nick alluded to, they have some specials. So in terms of like how we compare ourselves to the other video conferencing systems that are masquerading as a virtual classroom, some high-level comparisons. Our integration is built into the core. You think of Zoom and Teams, they're either doing a plugin or they're doing LTI. Do they have a global community of open source developers? We do. I mean, these are closed source applications. We get improvements from people all around the world that really care about the product. We are focused on one market, education. We provide live analytics, the learning analytics dashboard, which I showed a few minutes ago. And some of the other features like multi-user whiteboard, this is separate in Zoom. It's built into Teams. Shared notes, again, it's separate. It's there in Teams. Upload a presentation annotations. No, you'd have to share your screen. You can't do what I'm doing here where the annotations are going to become part of the recording. Arbitrary responses to polls where I can ask an open-ended question. It's not in Zoom. It's there with external forms. And things like detect a poll question in the slide and make a one-button click to poll. We have that. So that plus the integration with Moodle really is trying to focus on the teachers. It talks about account customizations. If you upgrade to the premium tier, we can customize the welcome message, the analytics, the default lock settings. We can restrict recordings, hide student names and recordings, and you can access BigBlueButton outside of Moodle with something we call personal rooms. And that if you are familiar with the products in BigBlueButton open source, it's green light, but it's commercially supported by Blindside Networks. And as I said, you can actually download the analytics afterwards, which I showed a few moments ago. All right, I went through a lot of stuff. Let me summarize what we did, and thanks, and what we did and what we showed. So we, BigBlueButton, and with my BigBlueButton hat on and my Blindside Networks hat, are committed to providing you the world's best virtual classroom. It's what we've done for the last 13 years. It's one market we focused on. And we did that by going through very deep integration, which accumulated in having Moodle build us into the core. And we work closely with MoodleUS and other Moodle partners worldwide to deliver that promise. And in terms of the value we provide you, deep integration, so it appears as part of Moodle, many features that focus on engagement for the purpose of learning, and analytics to help the teacher teach during the class and kind of reduce their cognitive load. Because in online learning, we look at it from their point of view and say, what can we do to help? And the value we provide to educational institutions, we hope to reduce your support and training costs as it just basically operates as part of Moodle. Okay, so I'll turn it back over to Nick, and our call to action for yourself is reach out to MoodleUS. If you are not already a customer, check them out. And you, as Edward said, you have probably already used BigBlueButton in Moodle as well. You know there's a free version that's built into Moodle hosted by Blindside Networks. MoodleUS is there to help you provide commercial hosting. They can help you try it out on the free tier for them as well. If you have already an account with MoodleUS, and try it and see the difference. See what I was doing here. Try it out have your teachers try it out, and you can see the reflection in our product of how we try to really focus on the needs of the teacher and the student. That's my overview. Nick, I'll hand it back to yourself.
Thank you, Fred. I'll go ahead and just take over the presenter role here. And
I see there's lots of questions in the chat. I think we'll let Nick finish up, and then we're going to go into a pretty cool Q&A session here.
Yes, just a few more things before we open up for questions. Lots of good questions in the chat. I think we'll have plenty of time before the top of our hour to get to it. A couple of last things I just want to mention. We do have a promotion at MoodleUS for BigBlueButton where you can save up to 10%. So for any client signing up for BigBlueButton in the month of February, we're offering a 5% discount on your purchase of BigBlueButton. You'll just need to go to the Moodle contact form and let us know. In addition to the February special, we're also offering a bonus 5% for people who've attended this webinar. I've got a link in there for the promotional code. You'll just enter in BBB10 when you fill out the form at the bottom of that page to let us know that you've attended the webinar, and you will be able to combine both of these discounts for a total of 10% off your BigBlueButton. So if your organization is interested in BigBlueButton, or if you know friends or other organizations that might be, feel free to share that webinar special as well on social. And we'd love to have you get a premium account of BigBlueButton that Fred alluded to earlier. With that said, I think we could segue over to questions. Fred?
Yeah, I can start. So I've had this experience many times before. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read through the question briefly. I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to go on to the next one. If I don't fully answer your question or you'd like to have more information, just type some stuff in the chat, and I will get to it at the bottom. Nelly asked, how is the BigBlueButton integration different from the old plugin? It's really the same code that got vetted and improved and tested within an inch of its life, really, into the Moodle core. So the features aren't going to look very different, but the code base, the code is now part of the core and will be improved by Blindside Networks, people who contribute in the community, and by Moodle HQ. So it was quite a journey, and you're going to see similar functionality in the beginning, and we have a really solid base to build upon. And then, yes, so Nelly, and we have, there will still be, if you go download stock Moodle 4.0, it'll have the integration built in. And as you know, that Blindside Networks kind of provides a free version of BigBlueButton anywhere in the world. There's actually a lot of people using it. It puts a lot of, we pay for all the servers to provide this as a free service. Our belief is that people use BigBlueButton, they want to use it more, and that would eventually leads them to maybe setting up their own BigBlueButton server or servers like Baden-Württemberg did. It leads them to going to one of the companies that provide commercial support for BigBlueButton, like Blindside Networks. Or if you're with Moodle and a Moodle partner, go talk to your Moodle partner. It's a good chance we're already working with them to give you like a one-stop shopping. Okay. MJ, the required engagement, yeah, it's there. We don't do a grade, and the duration does get passed back into Moodle. So what happens is when you have the activity completion set, and you say put a threshold for a number of minutes for each class that activity has, or each session, they'll accumulate below the recordings as well. And then the analytics will pass back in terms of how long each user was there. And when the sum of their time exceeds the threshold, if that was the threshold, then Moodle will mark that activity as completed. And Sergio, you're asking, like, what if a user leaves? So because we have analytics built into BigBlueButton, you could be in a session for 25 minutes, leave, come back 25 minutes later, stay for another 5 minutes, leave, and we'll know you're there for 30 minutes. And you don't have to leave by doing the exit. Just close the browser if you want. The server will immediately detect within about a few seconds, 10 seconds, you're no longer there. And it'll give an accurate account of how much time you're in the session. Juan, seeing the screen of a student. To do that, you would have to make the student presenter. There's only one presenter at a time in BigBlueButton. You can make the student presenter and invite them to share their screen, and then they would be able to do so in their browser. Mohammed, so your question was, if BigBlueButton is included in the core, how will load balancing like ScaleLight be handled? If you're familiar, ScaleLight is a load balancer that sits in front of a pool of BigBlueButton servers. So to Moodle or like anything else, ScaleLight looks like a BigBlueButton server. So there's nothing we need to do differently with the Moodle plugin. It will just talk to a ScaleLight server using the same API because it looks just identical to a BigBlueButton server. Can students have the role of teacher? Nelly asks. You can actually promote somebody during a session to be role of, we call it moderator. Moderator and viewer kind of map the teacher and student. You can promote somebody during a live class, and you can also set those roles ahead of time. So if you've defined custom roles in Moodle, you can map those roles into teacher or to moderator or viewer if you want. You can do that on a per session basis or per each activity link, or you can do it globally in the plugin settings. Nelly, VC is the old term. Curious, tell me what you think the new term is. Synchronous classroom, synchronous learning. Sam says, our functionality teachers and postgraduate students want to screen share. Is that functionality improving? So that is actually taken care of by the browsers. And Chrome and Firefox do a really decent job, like pretty good job actually of screen sharing. It's come a long way. And there's more work that's going on in the open source community for better codecs. And as computers get faster and the network gets faster, I don't even think about screen sharing anymore. Half the time I'll be uploading slides and annotating them. The other half I'll be screen sharing. And Nelly, if you need to enable, to see activity completion, you need to enable some settings in the plugin. It's the very bottom. It's the last settings, which I think is, I forget what it's called, but you'll see it. The very last setting at the bottom of the plugin. Nelly, what about zooming in on the screen? So your screen sharing doesn't provide you, it shares your screen. It doesn't layer on top of additional functionality. So if you wanted to highlight something else on the screen that's bigger, you'd have to have something else that's going to do that for you. Sergio, the integration solved the missing exit logs. I think I already mentioned that. If you, BigBlueButton already knows how long each student's there. So if the student leaves 5 minutes into the session, then they'll know it's only 5 minutes there. In a real classroom, I love to hand over the reins to a student to answer a question, given feedback from other students like the teacher. So yeah, you can make somebody else moderator inside the session, or what you would probably do is just make them presenter. It gives them all the capabilities of the presentation area. They can use the whiteboard, do polls, but they can't do moderator things like kick other users out or end the session. So I would suggest giving them the ability to present. Yes, you can change the size of a BigBlueButton in the screen. So this is a layout. BigBlueButton is designed to be mobile first. So if you're running this on a phone, you would be able to use the show the panels back and forth. It is designed to be mobile, and things are changeable. So you can move the mouse between my picture and the presentation, and you can change the relative size. Okay. So Mohammed, we at the AIOU have 25 BigBlueButton servers handling 8,000 concurrent users. That is awesome. That is so cool. We're so happy to hear that. you undoubtedly following us on our mailing list, BigBlueButton Developer, BigBlueButton Setup, and that is the real measurement for success for us. We do not stand up in the community and say, hey, BigBlueButton does A, B, and C, and it's the world's best. Well, actually, I'm saying that a little bit here, so give me a little slack. This is a webinar, but we're pretty conservative when we're doing it, and we always say the best measurement for success is when someone else is successful with the product. So Mohammed, that makes us very happy. If you want this at more, if you would like that more of a success story, shoot me an email. We're always looking to highlight successes in our market in the community. Nelly, where do we pay? So BigBlueButton is open source, as you know. You can go to a commercial company like Blindside Networks for help with hosting, as you can with MoodleUS as well. Leon, please add more features to the free tier. Always. Every new version of BigBlueButton adds more capabilities for the teachers and students. So you will just see a drumbeat of new features coming out in the next 6, 12, and 18 months that are focused on helping the teacher teach and the learning learn. There will always be differences between the free tier and the premium tier because, of course, it costs money to run the servers, but we want to be able to help users around the world using it and give them incentive to upgrade. There's no 7-day free premium tier. The 7 days limitation recordings are in the free tier, and if you update to the premium tier, it's permanent recordings. Let's see. Sergio, kind of technical question. I think Jesus may be answering a little bit. If you have questions that are really technical, feel free to post in our community forums like BigBlueButton Dev, and myself and Jesus and others there. We monitor it and we can engage with you there. Stefan, will the Moodle integration allow for setup of your own Moodle server? Absolutely. It is the same integration, just vetted and proved and tested with an image of his life. So when you download Moodle 4.0, it'll come pre-configured to use like a test Moodle server. This is provided by Blindside Networks, but you can just swap those credentials out for your own BigBlueButton server. Juan, for training sessions, sometimes we need real-time access to student screen for guidance. Using the browser, you can view the student screen, but if you're asking, can you manipulate their computer? Can you move the mouse around or the keyboard? You cannot do that. That's very bad for security. So the browsers are very careful that the student has to give permission to share. You can see their screen, but you wouldn't be able to go the extra step. If you wanted to control it, you'd have to use TeamViewer or something like that. Do we have the ability to add? Michael asks, do you have the plans to add the ability for the teacher to monitor student screens or take control of their machine? Not take control. The sharing of a screen, even though we have one presenter at a time, I mean, we could extend BigBlueButton where you could have multiple people sharing the screens at the same time. It's just sharing the video feed. Maybe the instructor sees like a grid view of all the screens. We'd probably want to understand kind of what you're trying to get to at the end for the teaching and learning. With no plans to go there initially, but there's nothing technically that prevents from having multiple people share their screens. It's just the design of BigBlueButton is focused on the presenter, and there's one presenter. Nelly, you self-host. How does that influence? How do I host BigBlueButton with MoodleUS? Contact them. And if not MoodleUS, I think if you're not located in the US, contact a Moodle partner or reach out to Blindside Networks. We'll help out. Mohammed, when BigBlueButton is the core, what happened to ScaleLight? ScaleLight is an external application that sits in front of the pool of BigBlueButton servers. It's independent of any integration. So whether you're using other LMSs or Greenlight, you would just put ScaleLight in front of a pool of servers. Are there major updates, improvements to Greenlight planned soon? You're going to see more work on Greenlight this year. I don't want to give anything away, but you're going to see a more steady, frequent drumbeat of improvements. Stefan says, will the Moodle integration allow for setup of our own server? We'll have previous Moodle, or we no longer need separate server for BigBlueButton. You will always need a separate server for BigBlueButton. BigBlueButton should not run on the Moodle server. It is two different types. Just like Moodle has said, I think Martin was quoted, he's not going to try to write Moodle HQ is not planning to write a virtual classroom. It's just a different type of architecture and application. It's very different than a web-based application. Whereas BigBlueButton is a real-time single web page application. for sharing of audio and video and recordings and interaction. We want to make it look very similar, but it will always be a separate server. I can see Jesus has answered some of the questions. Keys, you can't prevent users from seeing each other. The moderator can. You can, it's one of the lock settings to prevent. And check out the lock settings. You can do this in our help. If you go to help in the upper right-hand corner, some videos that show you. Nelly, Zoom has analytics too. So does Teams and others. I'm not aware that Zoom provides you the analytics live during the class. You have to wait until the class is over to get that. We want to be able to provide the analytics live during the class, because where is it going to have the most value? During your online class. Lock the room layout, ignore lock settings, and allow override to lock settings. Let me come back to that one, Keys, and I might have to refer you to the docs. Lock the room, and briefly, if I go to our test server, to share my screen. It's more of a deeper question, but it's a good one. So we have this test server, test.bigbluebutton.org, anybody can go to. So if I go to the lock viewers, I think what it means is that you can have it where I don't have to join as another user, but you can click on a student's name and choose unlock. So you can choose that there could be a global lock settings enabled in the Moodle plugin, but for this particular activity link, you could decide that I want to ignore the global lock settings that's set in the Moodle plugin. And lock the room layout. There is some layout capabilities. If I go to settings, so you could set it up where students cannot change this. They can't change the layout. And just to show you what this is, so actually I'm going to share my webcam. Okay, so there's a couple ways of layout. Notice that my webcam stays at the top. So if I go to settings and I choose custom, and drag it around. So you can prevent students from doing this. So that's what some of the settings are for. But I would experiment with them and you can see. Stefan, we previously downloaded BigBlueButton onto a separate server for Moodle. Yep. And yes, with the integration, you can still host your own complete Moodle with BigBlueButton. Nothing's going to be taken away from you. All the source code is there. It's getting merged into the Moodle core, and it's becoming part of it. And the integration is just going to keep getting better. Boning, can you use BigBlueButton Personal Room product? Personal Rooms is what Blindside Networks calls Greenlight. So if you upgrade to the premium tier, you get that as part of the upgrade. The ability to have access to BigBlueButton outside of Moodle through Personal Rooms, which is our kind of hosted, commercially supported version of Greenlight. Yes, Leon, in terms of sound direction, I think what you're meaning is screen sharing and capturing the audio. It's still in Chrome. I think there's work underway to get into Firefox. Leon, make the links clickable into presentation. We might get there. There might be like a button in the lower left-hand corner that basically says, here are the clickable links. Yeah, can we share the slide with the Teams Zoom conversion? There we are. Keys, can I create groups or breakout rooms in Moodle setup of a BigBlueButton session? Not yet. Not yet, but I know that there's plans to like make use of the group assignment in BigBlueButton. And actually, I shouldn't quite, it's actually closer than that. If I go, the breakout rooms will, at some point, we'll pick up the group assignment. There's plans to pick up the group assignment, but I think you can set it up here for, yes, group mode. So If you have student groups set up, then when you create an activity link and have this enabled, the students will automatically go into separate BigBlueButton sessions according to the group. So that's not quite breakout rooms, but you can imagine it's not a big stretch to take that knowledge and move it into the main room and then enable the instructor to do breakout rooms according to their group assignment. Leon, TeamViewer, that's a commercial product. We don't have any relationship to it. I just reference that, and if you wanted to do something to control someone's screen, there's ways to do it. I know TeamViewer is one of them. Nelly, maybe I have the wrong from MoodleUS, but there's nothing pertaining to BigBlueButton. So MoodleUS, just like other Moodle partners around the world, we have a very close relationship with them. MoodleUS resells our premium hosting for BigBlueButton. That's the premium tier. Obviously, if you're a customer of them already, it's very easy. If you're interested to be a customer, if you would not like to host Moodle, reach out to MoodleUS as part of the hosting for BigBlueButton. They can also offer you our hosting for BigBlueButton as well. Jesus already says in the horizon as well. Okay, Nelly, so it's an interesting point. You've been trying to get help as an independent teacher for years. You keep telling me that I would not be able to afford it. How much is to host BigBlueButton? So we do not design BigBlueButton for individual teachers. We haven't. There's an open source version, which anyone around the world is free to set up. If you are looking as a single teacher to have a virtual classroom, you would probably best serve by just paying for some other product that offers you like a $39.95 a month hosting or subscription. So there is no place at Blindside Networks where you can go sign up. Now, I shouldn't say that there aren't other people around the world. There are other people around the world that host BigBlueButton. It's open source, where you may be able to pay them for a personal subscription. It's not how Blindside Networks is structured. We work with schools and universities and K-12 and educational institutions. That's where our focus is. So I apologize up front that we're not designed to serve the individual person. It's a different business model. And this one that other people around the world provide hosting for BigBlueButton and do offer individual subscriptions. Thanks, Joseph. Okay. Wow. That's a lot of stuff to cover. And you know what? I must say, I'll say one more word. It is so satisfying to see so many people around the world who are using BigBlueButton, benefiting from it, hosting their own servers, even using it for free. This has been a journey, and I feel like we're just hitting stride. With COVID and the world move online, the world was looking for an effective virtual classroom. And the amount of work that's gone on BigBlueButton over the years made it ready for places like Baden-Württemberg to host 3,000 Moodle schools. And we have covered a lot of ground the last 2 years. And like the next 2 years, just the pace of development for BigBlueButton is accelerating because of so many people around the world contributing to the product, improving it. We're localized in 55 languages. So this for me is a chance to get feedback from others, what they're looking for in the product. Some of the things which we can't quite get there, like remote controlling a person's computer. I don't think we're ever going to get there, but just constantly focusing on the deep integration, the needs of the teacher, and providing teacher analytics. And we do that based on feedback that we get from the community, and we love seeing people's interest and use of BigBlueButton. All right, so if you're interested, please contact MoodleUS. Back over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Fred. That was, hopefully we were able to get to a lot of questions, get some good answers. I know I learned a lot. But yes, to reiterate, the BigBlueButton plugin is now included with Moodle 4.0, so you'll start seeing that in March. There'll be no need to download that BigBlueButton, bit of a tongue twister. There'll be no need to download the BigBlueButton plugin separately once you upgrade to Moodle 4.0. That release will again be coming out in March. So keep an eye out on that. If you haven't already, please be subscribed to moodle.org/news for those latest updates. And also, if you're interested in signing up for a BigBlueButton premium account, please be sure to visit moodle.com/US and let us know. And then we can definitely talk about your individual BigBlueButton use case scenario, make sure it's a good fit, and get you switched over to that premium tier. Again, if you are a MoodleUS client, we do have access to that free tier. So if you'd like to try out BigBlueButton as well, just put in a support ticket as an existing MoodleUS client, and we'll go ahead and add that BigBlueButton free tier to your site for you to go ahead and try out. Just as a reminder, that free tier just has the recordings available for 7 days, versus the premium tier is going to have access to those recordings permanently. So that's a huge differentiation between those two versions. A couple of last questions before we leave. Tracy, if you were hosted by Moonami, yes, if you were hosted by Moonami, you are still or are now a MoodleUS customer by default. So you would have access to that free tier. If you'll just go ahead and log into your support account and let us know that you want to have BigBlueButton added to your Moodle site, our support team can go ahead and make arrangements to upgrade your site before Moodle 4.0, so you'll have access to that. Fred, I believe we'll be having a recording of this uploaded to YouTube a little bit later. Is that correct, Fred?
Yep, I think we'll we'll provide you the recording, Nick, and you guys can host it under the MoodleUS YouTube channel.
Excellent. And I think we're at the top of the hour, and I think we're good for some housekeeping. So we look forward to seeing you guys at our next webinar. We really appreciate you signing up and coming in, and hope that this session has been very informative. I know, again, I've learned a lot about BigBlueButton, and hopefully you can share this information as well with your peers. So thank you, Fred. Thank you to the Blindside Networks group for joining us for this webinar. For MoodleUS customers, we'll have a new webinar, new guest coming in next month, so keep on the lookout for that additional information. And we appreciate you guys being part of this journey with us in terms of online learning, both our customers and BigBlueButton, our partners, to make this possible. Thank you so much.